To help understand the most recent problem plaguing beekeepers, colony collapse disorder or CCD, we must first investigate the mix of parasites, pathogens, and diseases already stressing the bee's fragile ecosystem. Secondly, the history and true nature of the apiculture business. And finally, the important role honeybees play in our everyday life.
I think people get it. In an age of global warming and war and huge debt, we don't understand those things. They're too big for us to comprehend. But I think everybody gets the fact that if bees are gone, there's something fundamentally wrong. It's clear that bees are not healthy, and there are a lot of things probably contributing to that unhealth.
Before I started working here, I really had no idea how big of a role bees played in pollination. What we do is we go through and we score the organs. We'll look at the stomach for size and color. We'll also look for scarring. There's a valve located between the stomach and the small intestines that we know harbors some kind of microorganism. Some of the other stuff we're seeing is swelling, especially the sting glands. We're seeing some melanosis, which is a pigmentation discoloration, and that's usually associated with some kind of immune response.
In October of last year, 2006, Dave Hackenberg, a beekeeper from Pennsylvania, who had just taken his hives down to Florida for the winter, noticed a decline in his beehives. Over 75% of his hives had most of the adult bees missing. They just disappeared. And all that was left was a queen and a handful of worker bees.
We have several theories here. It could be a new pathogen or a newly evolved pathogen. It could be a protein-deprived or environmental stress.
In a situation with commercial beekeepers, they'll take whatever the number is, doesn't matter whether it's 500 or 3,000 colonies. They take these colonies out, move them into an area where the bees are there to pollinate that area. The bees aren't really fond of going to cucumbers. There's not a great nectar source there for them. So they're sort of dropped in the middle of, say, 50 acres of cucumbers. They're forced to, if they got to forage, you got to forage on cucumbers. And they might come out of cucumbers and they'll have to be fed because they worked, the bees worked, but they didn't get any food out of that crop. So you got to feed them. So they got to provide them with a supplement, you know, a protein supplement. Like a big cement mixer, and they're mixing up the protein patties, you know.
You know, we're finding different things in these colonies that we don't understand and we need to ensure bee health. How do you get a heart attack? Well, it could be your diet, it could be lack of exercise, it could be drinking too much or smoking, or all those things combined. Honeybees are not native to North America. They were introduced with the Pilgrims and the early colonists. But also introduced with them were a whole bunch of plants and trees that weren't in America either. Johnny Appleseed, so apples aren't native to America. So we have a whole bunch of plants or agricultural products that rely on honeybees because they evolved with honeybees that we introduced and do this mega farming with. It would appear that it's probably a multifactorial thing, several things combining to make the perfect storm. It's just how many people or how many beekeepers are we going to lose?
The best thing about it, I think, is just people getting to hear the story of the bees. It takes a special kind of person to be a beekeeper. It's not easy work. It's hot. It's, you know, work with stinging insects. These guys are like a dying breed. It's sad to go to someone's house and see thousands of empty boxes of bees stored away somewhere.
Within a 10 to 14 day period, boom, they drop down to hardly anything. A handful of bees, a little cluster of bees that you can hold in your hand protecting the queen. And that's colony collapse disorder.
If these guys go, it's not like they're just out of business, but it's the family farm that relies on them in the apple groves, you know, the blueberry producers, the cranberry producers. All of them are impacted if bees are taken out of the equation.